This episode of The Witch Wave is brought to you by Luna Lifted. Luna Lifted creates jewelry and rituals for the moon lovers and mystics of the world. Each Luna Lifted jewelry piece is made with a unique intention in mind, drawing inspiration from goddess archetypes, the moon, tarot, nature, and all things magical. Every design serves as a reminder of the magic residing within each of us. Now, I was sent a couple of their necklaces and I'm in love with them. One is their dainty Diana necklace, which is this sweet little heart pendant with a crescent moon and a star in it. And it's just this really subtle way for me to wink at Artemis or Diana, the goddess of the moon. And I deeply love their Persephone necklace, which is appropriately enough double-sided. It has Persephone's floral light aspect on one side and her dark queen of the underworld aspect on the other, and it has a bejeweled pomegranate lariat hanging down on the bottom. It is so beautiful, and I wore it on Mabon this year, and I just know I'm going to wear it in the seasons to come. Luna Lifted also offers ritual kits for the Wheel of the Year celebrations that include a step-by-step guidebook and every tool and ingredient you need to perform the ritual. Their Samhain kit is perfect for spooky season. So check out lunalifted.com and you can take their goddess quiz at the top of their website to find your goddess archetype and matching necklace. Listeners can take 25% off with discount code WitchWave at checkout. That's lunalifted.com. Hello, my friend. I am often asked about how people can get even more witch wave and more magic in their lives overall. And I have the answer. You can join me over on the Witch Wave Patreon. This is how you can hear from me and my other magical guests on a weekly basis via my Witch Wave Plus bi-weekly bonus episodes. And you get the regular Witch Wave episodes ad-free, and you get detailed show notes for all of it. And all Patreon members also get access to my monthly ritual workshops, which you can attend live or watch the recording of at your leisure throughout the month. Rewards for some tiers also include magical merch and contests where you can win witchly prizes, as well as early heads up about my workshops before they sell out, and opportunities to work with me one-on-one. And all backers get access to our exclusive digital coven, where you can connect to a community of other wonderful Witch Wave witches around the world. So head on over to patreon.com/witchwave and sign up. It's a magnificent way to get more magic in your life and to support the show. Thank you so much.
The world is filled with bewitching people, and you might be one too. Welcome to the podcast where art is magic is real, and reality is stranger than dreams. I'm Pam Grossman, and this is The Witch Wave.
Hello and welcome to the Witch Wave. Ooh, it's October, Occultober, and even though we are year-round witches over here, of course, there is something so special about this month. I'm recording this from our magical little mountain house, and the leaves are crimson and rust and gold, and there's that crisp chill in the air. We got a giant pumpkin yesterday. We are feeling it. It is all happening. Something else happening this month is that Judika and I are doing an online Samhain ritual workshop on Wednesday, October 30th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and it will indeed be recorded for all registrants, so no worries if you can't make it live, but do register if you would like to. The theme of this ritual workshop is Crones and Bones. Yes, I was very proud of that one. Thank you so much. And we are going to contemplate the crone aspect of the witch archetype, as well as commune with various crony, bony, death deities. And of course, we'll also be doing some ancestor work, and it's just going to be fun and meaningful and steeped in magic. So please do join us by registering over at the link in my Instagram bio at Phantasmophile or at pamgrossman.com/events. Would love to have you there. Now, speaking of the witch archetype, one of my favorite topics, of course, I love watching witchy movies and shows all the time, but I am doubling down on occult content this month. And I'm doing that first by watching the new Marvel show, Agatha All Along, which I'm actually really enjoying. It's campy and kitschy and super, super witchy, and I'm having a lot of fun with it so far. I do have one little beef, and that's that they're not really using the term sigil accurately. A sigil is a charged symbol that can have any intended effect that the witch or magician imbues it with. So it's not only a protective device, as they say on the show, and it's certainly not always a binding spell or a silencing spell or a sealing spell, but instead is a design, is a charged artwork, drawing, image, symbol, whatever word you want to use, that can be used for, again, whatever magic the witch puts into it. So you can have a sigil for getting a new job. You can have a sigil for finding a lost set of keys. You can make a sigil for getting inspiration for a project or blessing a project. You can make a sigil for anything. So that's just one little tiny thing I want to clear up. But other than that, the show is light and fun and silly and goofy, and I'm into it, man. I'm really, really digging it so far. And something I really like about the show is how they're depicting witches in various ways. They're showing that witches don't always have to look the same or act the same or be of a specific background. They're showing that witches are not a monolith and that there are different skills and powers and styles of witchcraft. And I also like that they're attempting, albeit in their Disney Marvel feminist light way, to talk a little bit about how powerful feminine outliers have always been maligned and called witches as a negative epithet. And of course, that is still going on today. So anyhow, yes, I'm enjoying the show and looking forward to more. The other thing that I'm excited to dive into this October is the collection of witch films that Criterion has curated on their streaming platform. We do have a subscription to the Criterion collection. I really recommend it. I know there are so many things to subscribe to, but this is one of the streamers that I think is very worth your investment if you are able to do so. And what they've curated this month is kind of a nice sample platter of nearly 100 years of witch films. And they've done a beautiful job. There are a lot of old favorites of mine on there, like Suspiria and Rosemary's Baby and The Love Witch. And shout out to Love Witch writer-director Anna Biller, who was a very early Witch Wave guest way back on season 1. So give that a listen if you haven't already. It might be fun to listen to the episode and watch the film. Or actually, you should probably watch the film and then listen to the episode, just because I cannot remember if there are spoilers in it. But anyhow, the series looks fabulous, and there are a bunch of films as part of it that I haven't seen yet myself, including the 1963 Italian film Il Demonio and the 1981 Australian thriller Allison's Birthday. I haven't even heard of Allison's Birthday, so I'm really excited to round out my witchy cinematic cauldron even more. So yeah, I've got some really delicious, bewitching viewing ahead of me. And I always love thinking about the many ways that witches are portrayed on film and in books, and of course in real life. And it's always a pleasure for me to get to speak with other witches who get a kick out of pop culture like I do. And I can think of no better person to discuss witch depictions with than today's guest, Judika Illes, who was also on season 1 of The Witch Wave. But she is back today to discuss her newest offering, which has the title Witches, a Compendium. And this is her mini encyclopedia of fictional and historical witches throughout time. Now, I always adore any excuse to talk with Judika, and so chatting with her about this book and her favorite witchly deities and tricky witches throughout time was a true treat. But before we get to that, first, let's check and see what's come through on the Witch Wire.
Who is it?
Witches. Hi, Pam. My name is Tara, and first off, let me start by saying what a huge fan I am of the Witch Wave and you and your work. I've been listening for many years now, and I had the immense pleasure of traveling with you and meeting Laura and so many fabulous witches in Greece last year. It was truly the most magical experience of my life. Hard to believe it was a year ago. I just love listening to your podcast and hearing your sage advice on life and learning, which is why I have brought a question to you today. A few weeks ago, I started a job working at a correctional facility for juveniles. It's something that I'm very proud of. I know it's going to be hard work, but it's something I feel called to do. The thing that I'm struggling with and what I'm hoping you can help me with is I'm trying to find ways to protect my energy. I feel very protected physically there. There's just so much trauma, especially from our young men there. And I try to be an ear, but I'm noticing that sometimes I take that home with me. I've never been very good with trying to find a good rhythm or a good way to ground myself, but I'm trying to find ways to build that metaphorical wall around me so that I can be there for them and support them without it encroaching on my energy and my well-being. I was wondering if you had any advice, any ways to ground myself, or any mantras I could say. I've tried wearing a black tourmaline necklace, and that's been helping. But I'm just trying to find ways that I can show up and be my best self while also protecting my energy as well. Thank you so much.
Hi, Tara. It is so wonderful to hear your voice again. And I also can't believe it's been a year since we made our magic together in Greece. But I'm so happy that so many of our Grecian coven members have stayed in touch since then, yourself included. So thank you so much for this question. So, first of all, congratulations on your new role. It sounds really meaningful, and having spent time with you myself, I just know that the kindness and love that you exude is really going to help so many of those kids. Now, I'm hesitant to make any assumptions about the facility that you work in, as well as about your feelings regarding the correctional system in this country overall, whether we're talking juvenile corrections or otherwise. But I do think it's safe to say that on a day-to-day basis, you're interfacing with a lot of young people who have experienced some kind of pain and who are presumably in pain in that facility, and who have presumably experienced pain outside that facility. And I don't know exactly in what capacity you're working with these kids, but I can understand how protecting your energy and trying to keep yourself from taking on too much of that pain might be challenging. And so ordinarily, yes, I think you're right on the money. I usually would say wearing black stones like the black tourmaline you mentioned or onyx is a very good, simple, protective magic. I also often recommend taking salt baths regularly. Salt is such a reliable, traditional, old magic that helps people to purify and strengthen their protective layer, if you will, their energetic layer. It also leaches out impurities, whether we're talking physical or spiritual. So love salt baths. But since you mentioned Greece, I also feel called to remind you in particular that our old friend, the god Asclepius, who's the Greek god of healing, can be called upon for emotional healing as well as physical healing. And it sounds like these kids could use some healing. You could use some healing from the trauma that they've witnessed or that you are now, either experiencing by proxy, whether overtly or covertly. So Asclepius is your friend, and having spent time with you, I know that you have a really healing energy about you, and I think Asclepius, since you spent so much time with him in Greece, with our coven, visiting his sanctuary together, I think he's somebody you might want to consider working with a little bit more closely. All of that to say, my intuition is also telling me to guide you toward perhaps reframing this situation overall. Because I'm not sure you're just in need of protection, especially since you say you feel physically safe there and so on. So what I'm thinking, either instead or perhaps in addition to protective devices or techniques, is that you're in need of some transmutation magic. In other words, how can you shift some of your own energy and environment and some of that painful, dark energy around you? How can you shift that into something more healing, more positive, more prismatic? And what I'm envisioning is, rather than you leaning into the darkness only with these black stones and, banishing spells or warding spells and things like that, to consider ways of keeping yourself as light as possible. I think these kids and you could probably all really benefit from some levity, from some laughter, from some color, just lightness and brightness overall. And so I'm wondering how, rather than you just cloaking yourself in this protective magic, which is important, but how can you also just shed some of that heaviness or turn it into something beautiful with laughter and joy? So absolutely sure, you can wear your black tourmaline and you can take your salt baths and all those things if you feel called to. But I'd also like you to consider adding in just like more fun, more delightful magic, both in and out of your workspace. So maybe that looks like working more closely with an entity like Baubo, who's a Greek crone character who, as the legend goes, made Demeter laugh and lifted Demeter's spirits enough so that she kept up her quest and eventually was able to rescue her daughter Persephone from the underworld. So yes, Demeter had to go into the underworld. She had to rescue her daughter. It was dark. But what fortified her enough to do that was this laughter that Baobo bestowed upon her. So that's the kind of magic that I'm picturing for you right now. You get the idea. Lots of other laughter and mirthful goddesses in all different pantheons from all different cultures. So just think about that. And this also means doing, easy things like watching more comedies, or maybe you take dance classes. Maybe the kids you're working with, I don't know, you can bring to them an intention of playfulness and delight. Maybe you want to wear brighter colors. Maybe you want to wear a piece of beautiful clear quartz or some kind of rainbow-colored stones. Maybe you want to decorate your space with flowers, or just be more mindful about telling funny stories or jokes or reading uplifting poems and books to them in order to help these kids and also help you. I'm reminded of this story of my teacher, Robin Rose Bennett, who, when her partner was in the hospital with cancer, she would dress up like as beautifully and colorfully and magically as she could, because hospitals are notoriously, spaces that can be a little bit heavy and painful and sad. And by changing the way that she brought color and magic just into her body, she shifted her own energy, and also people interacted with her differently because, she was just such a distinctive, bright presence in this environment. So that's what I'm picturing for you. Have a little fun. Bring in that levity and brightness and counteract and transmute some of that darkness. And once more, I don't know what's allowed in your facility, but witches are very creative creatures. We are very crafty. You, Tara, know what it is like to make magic in stealth ways. You know this because we did that many times in Greece together. And so I have full confidence that you will figure out a way to magically brighten the vibe, both externally and internally, using your magic. Let me know if that resonates. And I am sending so much laughter and healing and love to you and to every kid who is fortunate enough to cross your path. Keep me posted, and blessed be. Now, on to my guest. Judika Illes is the author of numerous books devoted to spells, spirits, and witchcraft, including Encyclopedia of Spirits, Pure Magic, Daily Magic, Encyclopedia of Witchcraft, Encyclopedia of Mystics, Saints, and Sages, and Magic When You Need It. Her books are always top of my list of recommended reads whenever anyone asks me for spell books or books about witchcraft in general that I really, really like and stand behind. And I love them because they are both so comprehensive and well-researched, and also extremely clear and accessible. Judika was also a significant contributor to the witchcraft volume that I co-edited for Taschen's Library of Esoterica series, and she's also been a speaker at the Occult Humanities Conference. Her newest literary offering, Witches, a Compendium, explores what a witch is and the different ways to be one. In it, Judika presents the history, mysteries, and diverse natures of witches from around the world, featuring a who's who ranging from famous or infamous historical witches such as Tituba, Sybil Leek, Aleister Crowley, and popular fictional witches such as the Scarlet Witch, Circe, and the Wicked Witch of the West. Witches, a Compendium, celebrates witches in all their complicated glory. Judika herself is a practicing witch who has been a professional tarot reader for over 3 decades, and she's a certified aromatherapist. A native New Yorker, she teaches in the US and internationally, live and virtually, and she is quite simply one of the most knowledgeable witches I know. Judika joined me from her home via Zoom. Judika Illes, welcome back to the Witch Wave.
Thank you for having me, Pam.
Oh my goodness. I've been looking forward to this for weeks. You were, I believe, on my first ever season of the Witch Wave, although you and I have been talking and collaborating and doing all kinds of stuff together in the years since. But it is always a treat to get to talk to you. So thanks for doing this.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I love talking with you.
Aw. Well, first, I just want to say that one of my favorite things about having you in my life is that whenever you text me, your autocorrect turns my name to the name Pan, like the Greek god. And it makes me laugh every time. And I'm like, of course, that's what Judika's phone would do.
That's an excellent update.
Exactly. It could be a lot worse. I'll take a wily nature god. Why not? So we're here to talk about your, I'm going to call it new offering. It is an update of an older offering, but this happens to be one of my favorite books of yours. And that's saying something because how many books do you have now, Judika? Do you even know?
I think that it's 9 original books, and I've curated 2 collections of stories of fiction. But I think this might be my 9th.
Wow.
I forget sometimes. I've written 4 big encyclopedias, that I know.
Huge. I mean, we're talking like Oxford English Dictionary level.
1,000 pages.
Yeah, fat, delicious books.
So this one is sort of my mini encyclopedia. It was fun for me to write.
And it's so good. It really is one of my favorites of yours. And I was so thrilled with some of the updates. So for those who don't know what we're talking about, this is now called Witches, a Compendium.
Right.
And how would you describe this book?
It is a mini encyclopedia of all things witch, and it is a book that expresses my love of witches. It's a celebration of witches. I tried to make it a very positive book. So there are some prominent historical witches. Historical are a couple living witches, a lot of literary witches, tools of the trade, the tools witches use, animals that are associated with witches, and a rundown of things that witches do. You know, what is that craft that is witchcraft? I have a bigger encyclopedia of witchcraft. This is almost like a greatest hits. The bigger book has a large section on the burning times, the witch crazes. This one just sort of dips its toe into some celebrated accused witches. They may or may not actually be witches who were caught up in that. Trying to broaden people's perspective. I think witches get a lot of bad press, you know?
Yes, yes.
I mean, to this day, I'm constantly seeing the word witch as an insult, as a derogatory term, especially for women who, you know, don't know their place, or people want to express that these are women they disapprove of, so they're witches. But for me, witches are something to celebrate. It's a goal.
Yes.
Witches are powerful, you know, whoever you might be. And witches, of course, come in all genders, all shapes, all sizes, all colors. You can't just stereotype that nasty women are witches.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And the other part that I love about this book is you also have lots of pop culture witches, which is one of my favorite things to talk about and something I'm excited to talk to you about today. And Judika, I think that's one of the reasons why you and I have bonded, because this book to me, it really feels almost like a celebration of the archetype of the witch overall.
Yes.
Whereas I think of the Encyclopedia of Witchcraft, that is a giant, thick, comprehensive book that certainly covers a lot of different witches and lots of aspects of the witch. But to me, this is a real distillation of like, okay, you think you know what a witch is? Well, here are many different depictions over time, some real life, some artistic, some literary, some in comics. Here's some things witches are said to do. And you being a public, self-identifying, practicing witch, I could see someone thinking, okay, you know, Judika, she takes this so seriously. She's a scholar. She's a practitioner. She only writes about, you know, spells and gods and goddesses. And you do that beautifully. But you also embrace these more fictional depictions of witches too. And to you, that's part of the stew or the brew, as it were. And so that's something I really relate to. And it's something that resonates with me.
Well, I love witches, and I've always loved witches. And I'm asked a lot why.
Mm.
I have no idea. My mother taught herself English by reading to me, and we read a lot of fairy tales. I was tiny. I've always been on the side of the witch.
Mm.
I don't like Hansel and Gretel because the witch dies.
Mm-hmm.
The Wizard of Oz, the MGM musical, used to really scare me.
Yes.
It's a movie about witch killing. If you want to distill that down,
Yep.
it is a movie about killing witches.
Mm.
And that has always bothered me. Whereas anything that sort of celebrates a witch, I'm old enough to have been around for the premiere of Bewitched.
Mm.
And I think it is very hard in 2024 to understand how revolutionary that show was.
What did it mean to you? Yeah, tell me.
Because the heroine was a witch,
Mm-hmm.
and witches were portrayed, they were nuanced. And the primary character, Samantha, she's good and she's beautiful and she's smart and she's kind.
That's right.
And, she certainly puts up with her mother-in-law with more kindness than her mortal husband does. Just to see that where, the word witch wasn't used as a derogatory term
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the person using the term doesn't like in women.
Right, right.
And that was just radical. I think people really, really responded to it. And it's a light comedy, so it's very easy not to take it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
It really, I think, did have a societal impact, especially on my generation.
Absolutely. And I remember researching the show for my book, Waking the Witch, and learning that a lot of the writers, especially the first season, they were really interested in the second wave feminist movement. They were really interested in Betty Friedan and the feminine mystique. And so
Right.
it was also a very intentional metaphor for women's power and feminine or feminist power, and
Yes.
how you sometimes have to pretend you don't have it in order to fit in and be the good wife. But actually, you secretly have all of this incredible skill and gifts, and you can really get shit done.
And it just comes bursting out occasionally.
Yes, yes. And the tension between navigating
Yep.
what society says you should be as a woman versus what you really are and your full potential.
Right. But what you said before is very interesting because people don't talk about fun enough.
Yes.
Not just about witchcraft, but spell casting. Spell casting, you're using your personal power and it gets depleted because if you're casting a lot of spells, it's work.
Yeah.
It's tiring. And one of the ways you rejuvenate and essentially refill the gas tank is by having fun.
Mm.
And I think people can feel that when you're having fun. You might start off, you're sleepy, you're down, and then you start to have fun and your energy rises.
Yes.
But you're genuinely feeling something. That's not an illusion. You're feeling your energy go up.
Yes. And you're making me think about how some of the quote unquote traditional methods of raising energy are laughing, dancing, fucking,
Singing.
singing. Yep.
Yeah.
Things that are pleasurable and that raise our energy.
Revelry,
joy. Exactly. That's exactly it. Yep.
Well, it is. In the witch hunting era, it is one of the things that the Inquisition and those it influences, the witch hunting manuals, accuse witches of. They're not staying home and doing their housework and being obedient. They're flying off to remote mountaintops where they're feasting and dancing and fucking
and partying.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're having fun, those damn women.
Yes, exactly. And skipping actually to the end of the book, and I want to circle back to the rest, but at the very end of the book, you have this chapter that I found quite moving, where you're essentially saying, like, are you a witch? How do you know if you're a witch? And you kind of run through certain identifying traits. But one of the things that comes up is like, are you unfettered? Do you laugh a lot? Some of these different demarcations of just being free. And it made me think about, and not to get things too political, but when I'm looking at Kamala Harris, who's running for president, one,
Cackle.
yeah, people keep bringing up on the right, oh,
Yeah,
she laughs too much. She's
yeah,
unhinged. She doesn't take things seriously.
yeah.
Or they say, one of the things, if they want to smear her, is they say she slept her way to the top, And I was thinking about when Hillary was running, she also got made fun of for her laugh, except they called her like a harpy and a crone and, of course, a bitch and all these other things that were like
More.
kind of like the negative crone version of the witch. So you have
Yes.
Kamala, who's supposed to be this, like, I don't know, seductress, laughing version of the witch, if you will, and then Hillary, who's the more crone version. But these tropes keep getting played out?
I collect postcards, witch postcards.
Mm-hmm.
When I see witch postcards, I buy them, and I have a collection of sort of political postcards of women who are dressed up in very traditional, black hat, black dresses.
Mm-hmm.
It's all Photoshop. They're putting a broomstick. And I have a Hillary Clinton witch postcard, and it cuts across political lines. I also have a Condoleezza Rice.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is a way of diminishing women and cutting them down to size. And if you watch television, all these commercials, all about making women self-conscious, something else to feel self-conscious about.
Yes.
If it's not your ass, then it's your laugh,
Yep.
how you smell, your hair.
Your hair's too thin, or back in the day, as you say, yeah, your hair's too curly, it's too free, it's too long, it's uncovered. That's what they used to say about witches, that you were supposed to cover your hair. But women who let their hair grow free, we're talking a couple hundred years ago, they were considered witches or harlots.
Well, it depends where you are.
Oh, of course, of course. I should say, in the West. Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes hair is disobedient.
Yes. Don't I know it?
Yeah, me too. So it's like, you're trying to keep it covered or you're trying to keep it bound. It has a mind of its own.
Yes.
And that can get you into a lot of trouble depending when and where you are.
Absolutely. So let's start talking about some of the witches in the book. I mean, I almost, you know what? We're both witches. Let's tempt the fates together. Do you have a copy in front of you? Because I have a copy in front of me.
I do.
I wonder if we should do a bit of bibliomancy and
Okay.
just see who would like to be pulled into our magic circle today.
Okay.
Okay, you go, Judika.
You want me to go first?
Yes, you go first.
I have the goddess Nephthys.
Tell us about the goddess Nephthys, please.
The goddess Nephthys is both very prominent and very unknown. She is the sister of Isis and Osiris and Set. She's the fourth sibling, and she's the dark moon side of them. And Isis is also in the book. Isis is shining, and people adore her, and she's very public. I don't know of a better way to say that.
She's probably the most beloved Egyptian goddess, Isis,
Yeah.
goddess of magic. And
We're going to do a countdown of like the top 5 beloved goddesses today. She'd be in there. Nephthys is a shadowy figure. She's her twin. She apparently looks just like Isis. If Isis is the mistress of magic and the master of sorcery, Nephthys is very witchy. She's associated with creatures that are traditionally associated with witchcraft. Her colors are black and red, which has a significance in Egyptian mythology because Egypt is a Greek word. The Egyptian name for Egypt was something like Kemet, which means black. And it does not have the negative associations that black has had sometimes, in Christian culture and Western culture. Black is the color of fertility and life. And if you think about if you're farming, you want good black soil.
yes.
So the land around the Nile where you could farm was black. But the land, once you step outside of that, the land in Egypt becomes red because of the iron oxides. You can stand with one foot in the black and one foot in the red. And Nephthys is very much a liminal goddess. And I think that is something that is true. Things that witches have in common, because we have a lot of differences, but that comfort with the liminal, that comfort with thresholds. I think that is something that is characteristic of witches in general.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Ooh, I love her. And you know what she is making me think of? I have a very personal attraction to stories about sisters, especially when one's light and one's dark.
Yeah.
I have an older sister, and my grandma Trudy used to say that Emily is the sugar and Pam is the spice. And she meant it in a loving way, but I think I really internalized some of that, sometimes in a good way and sometimes not in a good way, because it's never great to be polarized like that. But the point was, I was a little edgier and darker
Mhm.
and, had an interest in the things that I'm interested in. And my sister is just like a real sweetie pie, blue-eyed, traditionally beautiful young woman and now woman. So I love also the myth of Inanna and
Yes.
Ereshkigal,
Yes.
the goddess of the
The
underworld.
descent was, yeah.
Yes, and then I love
And the recent. Yes.
the goddess Iris, the goddess of rainbows, who has become a really holy personal goddess I've been working with lately. She has a dark sister named Arki. I'm just always attracted to those kinds of stories.
The goddess Lakshmi also in India. She has if you look at a lot of devotional art, there's often an owl at Lakshmi's feet. That's her sister.
Really?
Yes, there's the goddess of fortune and her opposite.
Ah. And I love that. And of course, this is to your point about liminality.
Yeah.
They're often the same goddess who's just kind of fractured or fragmented into being different
Yeah.
anthropomorphized personas. But we all have all of this in us, don't we?
Athena and Medusa. Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I'm so happy with that goddess that was just called into our chat.
You reminded me, do you know the fairy tale Frau Trudy?
I don't think I do.
It is. I discuss it, and my big encyclopedia of witchcraft is just called, for those who don't know, Encyclopedia of Witchcraft.
Yes.
But it is Brothers Grimm's story, and it is a witch story.
That is so amazing. How is Trudy
Yes,
spelled?
Trude.
Perfect. Yeah, my grandma Trudy was Trudy, but still, I mean,
Is she in America?
she grew up in America, but her ancestry was Polish.
Right. But this is, I think, a German fairy tale. The spelling, it has been told to me orally, but
Yeah.
orally it sounds the same. Frau
Oh, it
Trude.
absolutely does. And of course, my grandma knew Yiddish and her parents knew
Yes.
Yiddish, and that's a Germanic
Yes.
language. So, I'm going to have to look up Frau Trudy. And now I have to say, hi, Grandma Trudy, thinking about ya.
But it is a witch story.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, Grandma Trudy definitely was witchy. She's my grandma who had healing hands. I've written about her a lot. She was also a librarian and very funny. Definitely where I get my sense of humor. Cackled, sang. She was just the best. So I'm so happy to talk about her. On that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. The veil is thinning, which means it's time to gather with your fellow witches and cast spells for collective liberation. Join the Modern Witches community for their 4th annual Witches Confluence. Now, I have been a speaker at the Witches Confluence before, and this is by far one of my favorite conferences. You do not want to miss this. This year, the theme is spiritual activism, and their workshops are designed to spiritually resource you for the transformative road ahead while fostering deeper networks of care within our community. Enjoy workshops from Isis Indriva, Jeff Hinshaw, Layla K. Fagali, and Eliza Swan from October 27th through October 30th, 2024. And join them in person in San Francisco on November 2nd for their day-long symposium featuring workshops on protection magic for activists and witches, anti-racism and the tarot, and collective spellcasting. The keynote speaker is the one and only Jessica Lanyadou, speaking on the importance of energetic boundaries in times of chaos. This is a witchy gathering that will be so inspiring and fortifying, and you are going to want to be there. Purchase your tickets now at modernwitches.org/witchesconfluence 2024 and use code WITCHWAVE for 15% off. And you can learn more by following them on Instagram at witchesconfluence and subscribe to their newsletter at modernwitches.org. The Witch Wave is sponsored by BetterHelp. So even though I try to accept myself and be myself at all times, there have been some occasions when I haven't always felt like I could be my full self, like I'm hiding behind a mask. This has happened to me most often at parties when it's noisy and crowded and I have to small talk with people. And what can I say? I'm a tall talk kind of girl. October is the season for wearing masks and costumes, but some of us feel like we wear a mask and hide more often than we want to. At work, in social settings, around certain family members. But there is good news. Therapy can help you learn to accept all parts of yourself so you can take off the mask. Because masks should be for Halloween fun or ritual, but not for our emotions. I recently went to this art opening and I was a little anxious about it, but I wanted to show up for the artist and meet her. And guess what? My small talk got a little tall. And that's okay because in therapy, I've worked to accept myself over the years, even if that means I'd rather talk about dreams and death at a party than, where I went to college. That's the energy I bring. Let's talk about death, baby. That's who I am. That's what I like, and therapy has helped me stop trying to pretend otherwise. It's not that parties don't still make me anxious sometimes, but I've learned to accept my party anxiety and relax into the circumstances by just being myself when I show up and talking about whatever I find interesting, even if it's not for everyone. And you know what? I bet some people are pretty relieved when they meet me, so they don't have to talk about where they went to school either. That's probably you, right? That's why you're listening to this podcast. So anyhow, if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Take off the mask with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/witchwave today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/witchwave. Hi, Witch Wavers. Let's talk about merch. You asked for it, so we made it happen. We now have print-on-demand Witchwave merch now available for you via TeePublic. This means that you can get different variations of our gorgeous Witchwave logo or our Witches Are the Future catchphrase printed on t-shirts, mugs, totes, stickers, magnets, notebooks. Oh my God, the sky's truly the limit. And shirts come in different styles and fabrics and colorways and are available sizes small through 5XL, so you can order whatever you'll feel you're most comfortable in and you're most magical in. So head on over to teepublic.com/stores/witchwave. That's teepublic.com/stores/witchwave. Or you can click the TeePublic link in the Witchwave shop over at witchwavepodcast.com/shop. Welcome back to the Witchwave. Today I'm speaking with Judika Illes. So Judika, should I do some bibliomancy and see who
Absolutely.
in the Witches Compendium or what in the Witches Compendium wants to come into our chat? Let's see. Okay. Oh my goodness, we're just having an Egyptian day. So I have Thoth, sometimes called Toth. I've heard it pronounced a million different ways.
Hootie.
Yes. So, all right, Egyptian magic, we're with you. So what would you like to tell us about this amazing magical god?
Well, it's connected because Thoth is apparently the one who taught Isis everything she knows.
Mm.
Thoth is an Egyptian deity, traditionally in the form of either an ibis or a baboon, both of which are very magical creatures. And he is a creator. He may have created the world. Ancient Egypt has many creation myths, and in some, Thoth is the creator of the world. He might have created himself. He wrote the first book, which is a book of magic spells. He
Mm-hmm.
created gambling, all sorts of stuff. I mean, he is fun, but also a protective spirit and what you would call a cool spirit. Spirits are often divided into cool and volatile, as are people. So, volatile spirits, you can offend them easily. They
Mm.
get mad. They may get over it, or they may not.
A little touchy.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas the cool spirit is very disciplined and very calm, and he doesn't really get angry. And if he gets angry, he keeps it to himself. That's very profound that we're getting all these Egyptians.
Oh, yeah. And I also was going to say earlier that the original name for Egypt that you talked about is associated with alchemy.
Yes,
The word alchemy comes from, is it chemi or
yes.
whatever the original name for Egypt was?
The owl is Arabic, and it's
Right.
translated as the black art, which people centuries later, or maybe just in a different culture, perceived as something negative. Oh, it's the black art. But actually, I'm very hesitant to put values on colors.
Hmm.
Colors are colors.
Of
And
course.
they're literally talking about alchemy, the Egyptian art.
Yes.
And the Egyptians consider themselves the Black Land.
Right. And Thoth was also or is also a god of alchemy and
Yes.
writing and all of these like transformational magical sort of operations.
Yeah.
So I often think about him when I'm writing and
Yes.
trying to infuse it with some extra magic. Oh, I love this so much, Judika.
Well, we're circling Isis too, her
Yes.
teacher, her sister.
Yes, yes. Ah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, I would love to invite you now to talk about maybe a historical witch that you were excited to write about in this book. Because, yes, there are lots of gods and goddesses, but there are also lots of real living historical witches or people who were considered witches or who now we consider witches. So, who was somebody that you were particularly excited to write about?
One aspect of magic and witchcraft and witches I was excited to write about. I have several what I call art witches in this book.
Yes, yes, yes. My favorite.
Yeah, me too, because it's a different kind of casting spells and doing magic. And it was something I really tried to fit into Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells, and I really couldn't. How do you teach someone how to cast a spell by painting a painting?
Hmm.
That's a very visceral thing. You're either going to know how to do it or not. That's not something you can give people instructions for. And then when I got to Encyclopedia of Witchcraft, I did want to include some, but that book, when it was written, it was originally another 1,000 pager. The publisher wanted another 1,000 pager.
Whoa.
At the very last minute, the bean counter stepped in and the printer gave them a very good price if we lost 300 pages.
Okay.
And so it's like an 800 something page book now.
Hmm.
But that meant that some entries were cut. And one of them was Rosalie Norton.
Oh, no. She's the best.
I felt bad. I really relate to the witches that I write about or the people that I write about. Do you remember there was an old Facebook quiz of if you could have a dinner party with 10 people from the past, who
Yeah.
would you have? And I have all the witches. And I think Rosalie Norton was so discriminated against during her lifetime. I felt terrible cutting her. So she was actually one of the first entries I ever wrote for this book.
Oh, good. I love her, Judika. And before you talk about her, because I want you to tell us all about her, I'm tingling for a few reasons. One, I don't think we've talked about her very much on this show. So I'm thrilled that a bit of shine is being put on her. Two, I had the amazing fortune of getting to show one of her paintings as
Oh,
part of my
wow.
show Language of the Birds, Occult and Art in
Wow.
2016.
Her art is so beautiful.
Oh my gosh. And 3, when I started this conversation with you accidentally typing Pan when you mean Pam in
Right.
our text, and Pan was such a important god to her.
Yes. He was her primary deity.
Yes.
And it led me, I have other art witches. Rosalie Norton was in the original edition of this book,
Mhm.
but I added more
Yes.
in this edition.
Yes.
Rosalie Norton was born in New Zealand, but she grew up in Australia. For people who are interested in her, there's a fairly new documentary.
It's wonderful.
It's wonderful, and it has her words and people who knew her, and it shows her art, which is incredible.
Oh, it's called The Witch of King's Cross, of
The
course,
Witch
which
of
was
King's
her
Cross.
moniker.
King's Cross is, if you've ever been in Sydney, it is or was sort of the Times Square of Sydney.
Mhm.
And she was quite a public figure. And Australia at that time was extremely conservative. It was a very judgmental, conservative society. And she was creating these witchcraft paintings. She was a devotee of Pan. And so she was painting Pan, and people were interpreting it as Satan.
Mhm.
Oh, she's painting the devil.
'Cause of the horns and
Yeah.
right. And this was in the late 40s, 50s, like,
Yes.
really edgy, edgy stuff.
Yes. Yes.
And let's just say, Judika, the paintings, a lot of them are really sexual, like, they're very erotic.
They're very erotic, very sexual depictions of Pam and Lilith.
Pan. You said Pam. If only.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine a portrait? How wonderful would that be?
I mean, I'm a little shy these days. I don't know that anyone needs to see me in a state of erotic ecstasy,
Well,
but
you could
you
keep it
know.
for yourself.
These are hot, saucy, magical paintings. Yes, indeed.
My sister's an artist, and she painted these beautiful, beautiful paintings. I remember they're very floral, they're watercolors, just gorgeous. And a critic just told her they were bedroom paintings, as if that was an insult. I thought that was fabulous.
It sounds very like Georgia O'Keeffe, sensual
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah, they're bedroom
Oh,
paintings.
I love it. I love a bedroom painting. So, yes.
Yeah, Rosalind was really persecuted. The morality police came in and seized her work, and
Mhm.
I find her very tragic. And I'm so happy. I'd like to think that wherever she is now, she's aware of how loved and celebrated she is now.
Yes. So ahead of her time, so audacious and brave and committed to being herself and making the art and the magic that she was called to.
You have this sort of dilemma because I think, oh, if she had gone to the UK or Paris or somewhere else, maybe they would have appreciated her more.
Mm.
But her art is so wonderful and powerful, and maybe that comes from her experiences and where she was.
Yes, yes. You have another art witch in here that I see as
Several.
you have several, but we've talked a lot about Leonora Carrington on the show, lots and lots. I adore her.
Yeah, me too.
I'd like to talk about Cameron
Yes.
because Cameron is someone, sorry to brag again, I had some of her work in that show too. It was such an honor.
All the artists are just amazing. They're
Ugh.
not here because they're witches.
Yep.
They are amazing artists who happen to be witches,
Right, right.
or their witchcraft was part of their art.
Yes. But tell us more about Cameron, please. Marjorie
I will tell you
Cameron.
more about Cameron, but I have to have an aside that it's very difficult with books because no matter how big your book is, there's limited page space.
Yes.
And I wish I could have included Lenore Feeney
Oh, I love Leonore
and
Feeney.
Remedios Varo.
You did mention Remedios. She got a
Yeah,
mention.
gotta mention that she really should have had her own entry. So who knows?
Yeah.
It would be lovely to have a book of art witches where you could actually see their art.
Yes.
We do have a snippet of Moina Mather's art in the book. That's actually her art. So Marjorie Cameron is, I think, so fascinating. She was an artist, but she's also an actress. And she's in one of my favorite movies called Night Tide.
Yes.
It's a Curtis Harrington movie. And she's a small role, but she's very mysterious and powerful. Night Tide, it's a mermaid movie with I want to say it's maybe Dennis Hopper's first film,
Mm-hmm.
or if not, then one of his very early films.
Early black and white, we're talking.
Baby Dennis Hopper.
Yep.
And Cameron preferred to go by her last name. Her name was actually Marjorie Cameron. She was in the service during World War II, and then she moved out to California. It's in the book, maybe more accurately.
Yeah.
Brothers were working for JPL Labs, and JP, is Jack Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack Parsons, together at that time with his then friend, L. Ron Hubbard, they had what they called the Babylon workings.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And they had a working out in the desert where they wanted to summon an elemental spirit who would become Jack Parsons' Scarlet Woman. And Cameron, who was redheaded, knocked on the door of his home in Pasadena. The response to the working. She and Jack Parsons had a romance and became married. And I wish I'd had room for an entry for Jack Parsons.
Oh, yeah. Rocket scientist witch.
Rocket scientist.
Judika, did you see the show Strange Angels?
No, but I read the book.
Okay. This was a show on AMC that was about Jack Parsons and Cameron and this whole occult rocket science weird scene. I only saw a few episodes of it. I won't give too much public critique to it, but I appreciated that they tried. How about that? That's what I'll say.
I personally have a hard time watching reenactments of people when I know what they look like in real life.
Yeah, I get that.
I've seen Cameron, and she's also in Wormwood Star.
Yes. She's in Kenneth Anger, some shorts. I think she's in Inauguration of the
Pleasure Dome. I think she's in Inauguration of the Pleasure Dome.
Amazing.
And I want to keep my vision of her in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you watch things, it sticks in your head. So I didn't watch it, but I bought the Songs for the Witch Women. I bought the art book.
Gorgeous book out on Fulgur Press.
Yeah, beautiful.
Friend of the pod, Robert Ansel, Fulgur Press. And just to say, so Cameron's work is so beautiful.
Yes.
Not only was she a practitioner, a lot of her work is quite erotic as well and just exquisite.
It seems to go with the territory.
How about that? Getting back to having fun, huh, Judika?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we like to have fun, don't we?
And Valley Myers also.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
I just love her. Another Australian originally.
But Valley lived all over the world. And I, as a very young person, saw her in New York City. And if you Google her, Valley, V-A-L-I, she was a very striking looking person.
Oh, yeah.
Very bright red hair and facial tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
And just
gorgeous, stunning blue eyes.
Yes. Oh. So she really made an impression on me, and I've always wanted to write about her.
And I'm so glad you did, because I love what you wrote about her. And everyone go and Google this, or if you're listening to this episode on the Patreon feed where we always do the show notes for our Patreon members, I'll link to all of these different artists. But Valley's work is like a lot of self-portraiture, lots of images of her with her familiars, her fox, Foxy, who would wrap itself around her neck and shoulders and was a real love of her life. And one little factoid I found out about her is that Patti Smith has this lightning bolt tattoo on her knee, and Valley gave it to her at the Chelsea Hotel. What's better than that? And I think of Patti Smith as a witch too. I don't know that she considers herself one, but I consider her one. So there we go. Yeah. On that note, we're going to take another quick break and we'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by Woodland Magic. Hand-poured in small batches by an escaped academic turned candle maker, Woodland Magic candles are deeply inspired by nature, folklore, mythology, and literature. Immerse yourself in a dark forest with candles like Nightwood, the Bog Witch, and Forest Floor. Or embrace the special magic of autumn with Samhain, Dance Macabre, and the candle that I've been burning since the start of October, Black Phillip. Ooh, my Black Phillip candle smells so good, kind of woody and smoky, but also subtly, deliciously sweet. And if you are a bookish witch, you'll love Woodland Magic's literature-inspired Volumes of Forgotten Lore, Carmilla, and The Priory. All Woodland Magic candles are made with 100% soy wax and non-toxic fragrances and are available at awoodlandmagic.com. Best of all, orders of $75 or more come with free shipping. And Witch Wave listeners receive 10% off their orders with code WitchWave10. That's WitchWave10. So go on over to awoodlandmagic.com and order your Woodland Magic candles today. This season of the Witch Wave is brought to you by Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab. Good news! Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab, known by fans as BPAL, has been growing by leaps and bounds since the indie perfumer's relocation to Philadelphia in 2022. The lab's general catalog of perfume oils, hair gloss sprays, and beard oils continues to expand month by month, exploring a wide range of scent types and inspirations such as witchcraft, paganism, fine art, and classic role-playing games. For their Halloween 2024 collection, BPAL has adapted Sheridan Le Fanu's gothic horror masterpiece Carmilla into a prolific series of 21 perfume and hair gloss blends. This limited edition series also includes some Halloweeny beard oils, such as pumpkin spice and type AB negative, plus a wealth of other delights for those who love to summon the fall spirit year-round. Look for the lab's Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for fresh updates, artistic inspiration, scent reviews, and more. Or you can dive in directly via their online shop located at blackphoenixalchemylab.com. Are you ready to face your shadows? Rue and Vervain's Earth, Moon, and Shadow Oracle is not just a deck for shadow work, it's an immersive experience brought to life by the visceral and hauntingly gorgeous artwork of Kat L. Amsel. Each card is a stunning portal, guiding you deep into the hidden corners of your soul, helping you confront the shadows you've long avoided. Now in its second edition, this deck includes 15 new cards, each intricately designed to reflect the depths of shadow exploration. And for those with the first edition, these new cards are available in a separate expansion pack to complete your collection. Alongside the deck, Rue and Vervain offers Into the Shadows, a Path to Individuation, which is a companion workbook crafted to guide you through your shadow work journey. Filled with potent rituals, intuitive card spreads, and transformative journal prompts, this workbook invites you to delve into your darkness with intention. Kat L. Amsel's artwork seamlessly pairs with these tools, making the journey not just introspective, but visually breathtaking. Explore the visceral beauty of shadow work with the Earth, Moon, and Shadow Oracle and Into the Shadows. Embrace your inner darkness and step into transformation. Rue and Vervain Publishing. Beyond the Ordinary. Welcome back to the Witch Wave. Today I'm speaking with Judika Illes. So Judika, I could just do this with you all day and talk all about these different witches in the book, but let's just say there are so many. There's Doreen Valiente, there's, Raymond Buckland, and then lots of fictional witches from Circe to Medea to Hermione, lots of films, TV shows. I would be remiss, though, if I didn't ask you about the show Agatha All Along, which is now, the new Marvel show. It's a spinoff of WandaVision, starring Kathryn Hahn as Agatha. I've only seen the first 2 episodes. I think a new one just dropped by the time we're recording this. The first 2 episodes, I really love it. How do you feel about it so far?
I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. And maybe you want to go back and watch WandaVision. I like comic book witches, and Agatha Harkness is an old school comic book witch. She
Yes.
made her first appearance in a Fantastic Four comic.
Mm.
In the earliest Scarlet Witch comics, she's the one who teaches the Scarlet Witch, Wanda, how to use her powers, because Wanda has all these powers that she doesn't yet know how to control.
Right.
And as I was writing this, I had seen WandaVision. So I had seen Catherine Hahn, and I knew they were making the series.
Mm-hmm.
But in my book, it still has the original title of the series. It was changed after publication.
They changed it like 3 times. Like, it
Yeah.
honestly was making me nervous about the show. It was called
Darkhold Diaries.
Agatha Darkhold Diaries. There was another one in there.
Yeah.
And then they landed on Agatha all along, which I think is great. And, is the name of the funny little theme song they give her in WandaVision.
I love the Witch's Road.
Ugh,
I love the concept
me
of the Witch's
too.
Road.
I do too. I think it's really, really beautiful. And something I love is that they're really celebrating, like your book does, the different aspects of the witch, different archetypes. Again, only seeing the first 2 episodes, but it seems like there's a green witch. There is more of like a healer kind of witch.
Right,
There's the Patty
right.
LuPone witch who does tarot and divination. Like, it shows all these different gifts and styles.
When I am watching depictions of witches, I want to see witches in their power and not apologizing for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of fictional depictions of witches, I love the way Belle Book and Candle looks.
Me too.
I watch it with the sound off because I don't want to hear how she'd really rather not be a witch, or witches can't cry, or
Right. This is a big spoiler alert, but she gives up her power in the end to be in love.
Right.
I love the Veronica Lake movie, I
I
Married a Witch.
I love that movie.
But it's also that thing of like having to choose between your witchcraft and being loved. There's a tension between having a traditional love life and being a witch in your full power. And I'm like, I want my cake and eating it too.
It's like declawing a cat.
Right. That's exactly
I
it.
love you, don't scratch the furniture. I love you, don't have your power.
Right.
I love you,
right.
now behave the way I want you to behave. Be tame.
That's right. That's right. So I agree. I love that so far this show seems to be.
I love Patty LuPone.
Ugh, me too.
I was really happy to see Deborah Jo Rupp.
Oh, yeah.
She's a lot of fun.
I agree. But I agree. It really feels fun and celebratory and a little bit like campy in a way that I adore.
Yeah.
Like it's very like
Yeah.
diva-licious. It's very queer. It's very,
Yeah.
Lots of like swanning around in capes, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. I adore it.
It doesn't, it doesn't. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. That edge where you do and you don't, that liminality. I like that.
I do too. I do too. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm glad you like it too. I was, whenever these big Disney Marvel things come out about magic, I'm always like, we'll see. But I think they're doing a really nice job so far. So watch this space.
I liked it. And I thought the casting was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Not to give too much away if someone hasn't seen it, there's a ritual with song, and I found that very profound.
Me too, Judika. I was really moved by it. I thought it was gorgeous.
It wasn't mocking.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was treated respectfully. The characters were treated respectfully. And I mean, there's still some episodes to go, so that could all change.
Right.
But so far, so good.
I think so too. It feels like they really did their homework.
Yeah.
So I want to zoom out a little bit and talk about you. Something that's come up a few times is about teachers. I see you as such a teacher, not only through your books, but also you teach workshops and classes. I've heard you lecture, you present at conferences all over the place. But I was wondering, do you have a teacher or a mentor, or did you? Or are you entirely self-taught?
No, and I don't know that anybody is entirely self-taught.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the person who I would say maybe was my primary mentor is no longer with us, is a woman named Carol Murray.
Mm.
So I started reading tarot cards very young, but I was mainly self-taught as a tarot card reader.
Mm-hmm.
1988, I decided I was going to turn professional, and I had a panic attack. What if I've been doing it wrong all these years?
Mm.
So I signed up for a tarot class in New York City. Carol Murray happened to be the teacher. And I ended up joining her coven because I had a very quirky path of my own. And she was the one who maybe brought me, I'm talking mid to late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
There was very much a New York City style of witchcraft that I don't know if it exists anymore, really. Since the internet, which has brought many good things, it used to be that if you drove around the country, you would go from one place to another and it would be different.
Yeah.
And now every mall is the same thing
Yeah.
wherever you go. There's been a bit of homogenization with American modern witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, New York witchcraft had a flavor.
Yeah. What was the flavor? I know about some of the locations like the Magical Child and
Yeah,
Wiser Books
Weiser
or
Books,
Sam Weiser. Yeah, what else? What was the flavor of New York?
Enchantments when it was owned by Lady Rhea.
I think they're the only one that's still around. Mhm.
Different ownership. Lady Rhea's in the Bronx. She had a store for a while, Magical Realms. I closed out. I did the last night there. I taught the
Wow.
very last night in the Bronx.
Wow.
It was right off the subway. People were afraid to take the train up to the Bronx. It's a shame. I attended a lot of great classes at her store. She really had some wonderful speakers. It was, I would say, Wicca influenced, maybe
Mhm.
not as initiatory
Mhm.
as traditional Wicca. Being New York, a very strong influence from Santeria and Espiritismo.
Hmm.
That was sort of what was in the air in New York at that time.
Mhm.
And a lot of spiritualist influences.
Mhm.
Yes, I would say Carol Murray, who died a few years ago, my book Daily Magic is dedicated to her.
Hmm.
She was probably my primary mentor and a very, very close friend. I tell everybody just you should learn from everyone you can, even if you disagree with them. Sometimes it's good to hear someone you disagree with because you can go home and say, what didn't I agree with? What was it that I disliked?
Yep.
And that helps you forge your own path.
Yes.
Because when somebody validates what you know or you like what they taught, it's all good. You don't have to think about that a lot.
Yep.
But when you have to struggle with something or innately, well, this doesn't sound right, it's not right for you.
Mhm.
So why is that?
Right, right. Something you write early on in this book is one quality witches often share is a tendency to resent and resist any attempt to limit access to knowledge.
Yeah,
And I love that so much, Judika, because I think of witches as innately curious, as people who tend to love to like learn and ask questions.
inquiring minds want to know.
Exactly, exactly, and there's a real, like, intelligence there. It might not be book smart, it might be more, like, innate
Right.
and intuitive, but
Many
it's
witches are not book smart, but there are
right,
many ways to be smart.
right, and then there are many of us who are big dorks like you and me who
Yeah,
love to read and research
yeah,
and get in the stacks of the library.
yeah.
I love this idea of, like, it's like this pursuit of knowledge and this idea that nothing should be off limits.
I have a confession.
Mm.
Every time I read like a news article or something, a post that a book has been banned, almost doesn't matter where, my knee-jerk reaction is to order a copy.
Yeah, you're like, "Oh,
I
clearly
want that.
that's interesting." Judika, do you know what's wild right now? Today, not when this episode airs, but right now when you and I are talking, today is like National Banned Books
I didn't know
Day
that.
or National Banned Books Week. I literally just saw Obama
Wow.
post about it. So, yeah, you're right
Oh,
on
I
the
didn't know
money. Go
that.
read banned books, everyone. I
Read a
completely
banned book.
agree.
What don't they want you to know?
Yes, and protect our libraries and our
Right,
librarians and
right.
our bookshop owners, please, these purveyors of knowledge.
I don't know that I could have written 5,000 spells without a public library.
Mhm.
Those librarians were so helpful. They found me books in other libraries and obtained them for me, and it's free.
Mhm.
It's such an equalizer.
Yes.
I'm thinking about Nicholas Culpeper, the herbalist, who was the first to translate an herbal into English, because in Great Britain at that time, all the herbals were in Latin. So you had to be a really educated person, use an herbal.
Mhm.
And Nicholas Culpeper, who got into a lot of trouble,
Mhm.
he wrote an herbal that just people could read. You can
Yep.
read it. I can read it.
Yep.
His books are still available.
Yep.
And that's really crucial.
Ugh, absolutely. So speaking of curiosity and knowledge, Judika, it strikes me you've been practicing witchcraft, writing about witchcraft, teaching witchcraft for, I think, decades now, right?
It's scary. Inside, I'm still 14.
Same. I'm both 14 and 78. I'm a teen
Oh my
crone.
God, 14 and 3000.
That's my
Oh,
archetype, teen crones all the way.
yeah.
What I wanted to ask you is how do you stay engaged with this topic? What are you still excited by? Is there something new that you're learning about now and curious about now, some new aspect of it? What keeps you coming back?
I describe myself as a very faithful person. I don't really know the answer.
Mm,
I fell in love with tarot card. I saw my first tarot cards when I was 6,
mm,
and I fell in love with them.
mhm.
I'm sitting here surrounded by the Lenora Carrington tarot deck right here.
Yes.
I love them, and I fell in love with witches even before that and witchcraft, and I still love them. And I don't really know why, but it always interests me. I will say that when you start learning something, maybe when you're in your 20s and you're young and you've read 3 books and it's exciting or, maybe less, and you think now you know a lot. But the more you learn, you realize so many books, so much to learn, and not enough time.
That's right.
I understand why people become, the archetype of the vampire. Can you imagine? You're 1,000 years old. You actually have the time to read all these books and what's going to come out after you're gone.
Oh my goodness.
I do think that is an intrinsic part of what makes people witches is that desire for knowledge.
Yep, yep. It's funny you mentioned that because I love everything about the archetype of the vampire except the blood. I'm very squeamish. So I'm I would live forever just to read, but can I drink something else instead, please?
The original, not to get too folkloric on you, but the original vampires were not blood drinkers. They sucked energy.
See, that I can get down with. I don't want to do that to anybody,
Right,
but at
right.
least it's less disgusting to me.
It is a magical thing if you think about it, because magical energy, and I talk about this more in my book, 5,000 Spells. I know we don't have a lot of time now, so for anybody who's interested, magical energy can be transmitted, it can be shared, but that's what a psychic vampire is.
Right.
You spend some time with them and then you're just drained.
Exactly.
But that is the folkloric, original, not sexy vampire.
Yes.
That's what they do.
Well, you are the opposite of draining to me, Judika. I just feel so fed. Every time I talk to you, I just feel
Oh,
so lit up and inspired. You are truly one of my favorite humans, favorite witches, favorite writers.
oh, no, thank you. That means a lot to me.
Oh my goodness, I just adore you. I think you're brilliant. And I still pinch myself that I get to call you my friend.
Ah,
So I just feel I did something right if I get to know you in this lifetime, Judika.
oh, that's so funny because I do that with Lady Rhea.
You say the same thing?
Yeah, I pinched myself.
Yeah. You're how can I know this amazing person?
In the late 70s, 80s, she was quite an intimidating presence. And if I call her up now, she answers the phone. It's amazing. It's shocking.
Yeah, I love that so much. Well, listen, I could talk to you all day. I have to let you go. Before we do, is there anything else you want to make sure people know about how to reach you, how to work with you, and so on?
Oh, my website is kind of in disrepair, but it will be repaired. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Google me, I can be found.
There you go. Google Judika Illes, Illes. All right, my friend, I really adore you, and I'm so grateful that you're in my life, and I'm so grateful that you
Thank
did
you, Pam.
another episode of The Witch Wave. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
That's it for the show. Thank you again to Judika Illes for sharing so many wonderful witches with me, especially herself. Do you have questions, feedback, need some witchly advice, or just want to share something magical that happened to you recently? Drop us an email or voice message over at witchwavepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, and you just might make it on the Witch Wire. The Witch Wave is a Phantasmophile production written and produced by me, Pam Grossman. This episode was recorded, edited, and mixed by Josh Wilcox and/or Walter Nordquist and myself. Our theme music is the song Hand and I by Lycanthia. Our new Witch Wave logo was designed by Thunderwing. Special thanks go to Matt Freeman, Laura Antal, and Cece Pascal. You can check out information about this and other episodes on our website, and now buy Witch Wave merch at witchwavepodcast.com. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at witchwavepod, and you can check out my witch emoji for iPhone by going to witchemoji.com or downloading it in the App Store. My books Waking the Witch from Gallery Books and Witchcraft from Taschen are available everywhere now. And if you want more Witch Wave or you would just like to support the show, please join us over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/witchwave. Thank you so much for listening. Witches are the future. I'll catch you next time on The Witch Wave.